Hi, it's great to come your way again with another exciting and informative episode of Anchor Hour. As always, we're excited to come your way and to share with you some nuggets for your life. So, if you joined us last week, you probably listened in on the introduction to the topic, the LGBTQ and related issues, and the Christian's response to it. We started talking about what the LGBT agenda is and who is considered, the various acronyms, what they stand for, and all of that. Today, I'm excited to be joined again by my indefatigable facilitator, um, my pastor, my mentor, my coach, the resident minister here at RWC, Overseer Professor Joseph Osafo Edu. Thank you for coming again, Daddy. So we stopped last week at, trying to see how the intersex fit into the LGBT agenda or how they are being made to fit into this agenda. Can you please go over that again and why they should not be criminalized or why they should be criminalized?
You go to the interpretation session where clearly the bill interprets what each fine will be. Now, when you look at the last part, you will see that the bill rather has a reparative um, provision for the intersex. And the reason is very simple. The reason is that the bill sees the intersex as, if you like, a neuroanatomical disorder. And that if this is seen early enough, the person can have corrective surgery. If the person grows up and he needs support to undergo any um, reassignment of the dominant, if you like, the dominant chromosome, hormone, then they correct it for the person. And so the bill doesn't actually criminalize.
Intersex.
No, it's
Right.
not. It's nowhere in the bill that is criminalized. The bill categorically says that they'll be given help.
Okay.
But I think the part that I raised last time was, what if the person who is an adult, an inter says, I don't need help? See, that's where the issue is. If he says, I don't need help, I don't think that the bill can, uh, by the spirit of it, still insist that such a person can be criminalized. No. But the criminality will come in if the person who says, I'm intersex, I like it like that, is found to be engaging in same-sex activities. That's where the issue is. Because, I mean, if the person is born with this neuroanatomical disorder and the person says, well, I choose to keep it as I am, I like it, I don't think anybody has qualms with the person's decision. Is if the person is found doing activism for LGBT, and also the person is found engaging in this behavior, which, as you know, it is already criminalized in Ghana, then there's a problem. So that's the issue. So for the intersex, or what you call, I think, sex development disorders also, DSD, disorders of sex development, yes, DSD, there are clear chromosomal aberrations or clear neuroanatomical disorder, and that you cannot. See, in Matthew, I think Matthew 19 or so, Jesus was talking about such persons, and he says that, and I think we did read, he says that some of them can be born like that.
Some have been made.
Some have been made by human beings. and others like that. So there are people with such challenges, and we cannot say that they have to be criminalized. But if they engage in any of the activities as stipulated, as engaging in gay sexual activities, which is actually criminalized by Ghana's law, then there is a problem. And I think that, let me also hasten to clarify here, that you see, those who think that this bill should not be supported make it look like the Euro-American, bloc, sociologically, is completely in support of these particular activities. Now, let us put it on record. That is not true. Yes. In fact, in the US, in UK, and most part in Europe, there are thousands, actually millions of people who don't support these activities. So people should not throw dust in our eyes, make it look like we are behaving in ways, this is the way to go, this is the modern way to go, and that the rest of Europe, they have embraced this, and we are not. Please, that is not true. We are being barbaric. We are living in Stone Age. That is not true. I mean, hundreds, thousands, and millions of Americans and Europeans don't support this. Texas, for example, criminalized this behavior. That is right in the US. Right. They criminalize it. Right? Hungary, Singapore, and other places in Europe. Russia, for example, they don't accept this. So, please, it is not true that Ghana is engaging acts that will lead to violence. It is not true. And you see, again, we are behaving as if this is the first time our laws are criminalizing these activities. We already have a law criminalizing homosexual activity in this country. It is there. We have a law criminalizing it. So it's not the first time. What this bill seeks to do is that it has just expanded on other activities. And that is why it is beginning to, ruffle some feathers. Because the bill is indicating that anybody found, for example, advocating, setting up a center, recruiting people. I told you that as a head of department, I got calls from some schools that some psychology students claim that they have been sent by the department to recruit students into this behavior. I mean, we go recruiting students to become heterosexuals. Think about it. No. Think about it. If it's natural, why do you have to go and recruit people to accept a natural part of them? It's natural, and yet they have gone to the secondary schools, and the teachers were worried. The heads of institutions were worried. These are the activities the current law is seeking to kill. Right. That we don't need to do that. If you think that you are born gay and you are doing that in your own room, who has a problem with you? It's your life. If you want to destroy yourself and you are doing it in your own room, that's you. But by the time you move out and you are actively inviting young people, and I don't know whether you have been seeing the in quote, the sex craze, appeal that is going on now with young children even engaging in anal sex and stuff like that. It's very unfortunate. And then also, before I end this first question, it's also clarified. I did make a statement, I think on one Peace FM, and somebody came in and said, I think the person didn't understand where I was coming from. He said, how can you go to school and support we should support the bill. We are saying that we should support the advocacy against LGBT. The rather thing that when you say you are supporting the bill, we are rather saying that we should support So the person completely misconstrued the thing and thought that I was supporting LGBT agenda. And our listeners should just listen and listen clear on this. The bill that is currently in Parliament says that certain activities of the LGBTQ whatever community should not be allowed. It should be proscribed. Right. And the bill has indicated, so in effect, what it's saying is that let us not support the activities of LGBTQ plus plus. So every Ghanaian should support that bill. Yeah. That's what it says. Yes. We are not saying that go and support, we endorsing the activities of LGBT. So those who are making this mistake, please, that is what it means. We are not supporting the activities, and there are, of course, there are aspects of the bill that we still are discussing. For example, so that people don't take that out of context and feel that we virtually are making life difficult for everyone, right, including, for example, the intersex, who think that they are criminalized, and it is not true. The intersex, those who have intersex and the LGBT community are beginning to, they have a malleable mind and beginning to confuse them that, hey, they are criminalizing. We have not criminalized.
Wow. Thank you so much, Professor. So that brings me to my next question. Just as people are born intersex, there are people who strongly believe that they were born gay. They've never had attraction for the opposite sex. Are people really born gay?
Very straightforward. Nobody is born gay. Extensive studies, right from the 1990s to the recent study in 2019, categorically has indicated that you cannot find a single gene. Right. Nobody is born gay. Now let us explain a few things here. I haven't made this statement. And I think last week I clarified what we call gender determination or determinism, yeah, and influence. When you say your sexual orientation is determined, what we are saying is that it is caused by something. So, for example, when you were born, you have a particular gene that is accounting for this behavior, this sexual behavior, which is the homosexual behaviors in you. All right. When you say something is influence, we say that there are several factors influencing. They are more of a correlation. You can establish a causal linkage. See, when you say a cause, you are saying A will lead to B. When you say influence or correlation, you say A and potentially other factors will lead to B. And perhaps not B, but lead to other factors, including B. So there's no way, there's no evidence. Now, the LGBT propaganda started this way. Okay, how about if I say I am born gay? If I am born gay, then the next point is that if that is how I am born, why do you want to change it? So then people will sympathize and say, oh, the person is born that way, so let's leave it. But let us also try to understand something here. You see, when somebody says, I am born this way, it means you cannot intervene. You can't correct it. But you and I know that that is untrue. That there are people born with all kinds of abnormalities. And when you are discussing, you will say that, oh, sexual abnormalities are different. It is not different. You talk to any physiologists and biologists, it's not different. Look, in the division of cells, when fertilization is ongoing, there can be aberrations. There can be mistakes. These mistakes can occur at any level. It can be at the sexual genitalia. sometimes it can be bodily, it can be anything at all can happen when the person is going through various, phases in the womb during fertilization. Now, why do we think that if somebody is born with hemophilia, with cleft palate, with any kind of deformity, like somebody is born without arms, we think that, or somebody is born with a leg that is short and the person may need prosthesis, and so he goes for this people to work on a particular device that will help the person. Why do we think that those things, they need interventions? And then when it comes to sexuality, we don't need intervention. There is a certain scientific hypocrisy in there, and I mentioned this last week. The scientific hypocrisy is that when it comes to sexuality and sexual development, we should say everything is fine. We shouldn't say, we should say gender is fluid, that it's not binary, it's not male and female. We should say is male, female, male, female, female, where it's in that continuum, and so anybody at all can choose what he or she wants to be. That is a very sloppy argument. And when people have problems at birth, we are rushing to give them to medical doctors to correct. So why don't we also want to correct this when they are born? And look at the dominant, for example, hormones and chromosomes and say, okay, this person appears to have more male hormones. And so let us correct. If we have external genitalia disorder, let's correct it. Why don't we want to do it? So nobody is born gay. And that is a very important point to make. And the data shows. However, the data also shows that people can be born, some genome, a group of genes, can influence certain behaviors. And in the recent study that have been, a study that has come out, it's been clear that, for example, particular genomes or group of genes can influence homosexual behavior. Those same genes can influence addiction to nicotine and, for example, addiction to cocaine and drugs. They can also influence addiction to sensation seeking. Okay, so now think about this. So it means that there are even particular behaviors that may have certain genome-wide influence. But the authors made it clear that they cannot, and you cannot see a single gene accounting for this. So people are not born with it. And now we understand why the person was born this way. So if it's hemophilia, the absence of certain coagulants in your blood, so that when you have blood problems, you have a blood coagulation. If there are problems, and we see that the person is born, we understand. So what? That's how science reason. Once we understand what is, but not that, shouldn't. The third point about born gay is then every intervention that must be made is cluttered. Because I'm born that way, don't touch me. I'm born, I like it that way. And if you look at the scores of studies about this, look, it's so sad. It's so sad that the same scientific community is preventing people who may want help that don't go. You are okay. What kind of thinking is this? That somebody, for example, says, I have this strong urge to be taking alcohol. By the way, 10% of genetic, genome-wide factors have been account for people who for alcoholic. And yet we treat alcoholics. What kind of thinking is that? Where does it come from? It's because of the agenda that let's live this. And then we just are corrupting people. Look, we have worked with some of them. And I'm telling you, this is not a behavior that they themselves are happy with. Sometimes they will say that, when we keep them this way and we don't talk to them, then they get depressed. What leads to the depression is their own dissonance with their values. And see, some of them were born in religious homes. They have believed in the Bible. They believe in this binary thing. And suddenly, somebody just, because they have a malleable mind, somebody just go to them and manage to change their thoughts about their feelings. And then they chose this way of, behavior. And they feel very, 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 very distressed. And that's why some will come for help. And they say, don't help them. If they say they are born gay, it means that they are stuck in what they are doing. And you and I know, I said it last week, that it is completely untrue that when people want to change their sexual orientation, they cannot change, and that nobody should help them. It is completely untrue.
Wow. I'm going to go slightly off track. Is this agenda benefiting a group of people? Like, is it a political? Why is it so important for people to stop people from getting help? Is it that they're getting money from it? I don't know. Is there something that is benefiting a certain group of people?
There is. Okay. There is, Eunice. The LGBT agenda is a cartel. Right. Look, their activism is huge. It is an extreme minority, and yet they want every system and every nation to bend to their demands. And I've had a time to take my time and read, right from the 60s to today. I've read extensively. Look, their agenda is strong. It's a political ploy, right. And it's all over. They are very influential. They are very powerful. They can block you at certain levels. So many things that they do, and they push people to accept the agenda. And you see, why should this even be a problem? A sovereign nation has a particular set of values, and they say at this point in time, this particular behavior runs counter to our values and systems, and family systems, and so we don't want to support it. Why should this become news? Why should Europeans and others jump into this and want to push and influence? And no, you have to. What is their agenda? I told you last week, from Australia to the UK to the US and other places, they have gone, the advocacy has gone that down to even daycare centers, beginning to teach children that gender is fluid, that you can just accept anything you want to be. Is that what to teach children? So you can accept a child to accept what she feels she wants to be. So if the child gets up tomorrow and say, I want to accept to feel like I'm an armed robber, the same society will say, oh, no, that's not good. It's very funny. If somebody recently and said, when I grew, I want to be a killer. It went viral. I want to be a killer. And then they asked why. So killing is very nice. It's fun. No. You know, killing. Why are you worried? Because if you can child be anything he wants to be, of course, it's a very sloppy statement. Then the child can say, I want to be anything at all. Right. So this is an agenda.
And what is in it for them?
Well, it's an agenda to get people to identify with this behavior. And don't forget, I indicated in the first presentation last week that it's an agenda, an attack on the church. Oh, okay. I mean, we know that Europe is becoming godless now. Yes. Europe is virtually going back to its pagan roots. Yes. So Europe is getting godless. We know that the name God is of various institutions. America started this. In fact, in the 90s, Carter wrote a book, The Culture of Disbelief. The systematic way in which America was gradually removing religion from public space and their school system. And that's what we're saying. So this agenda is an attack on the church, is an attack on the family system. Because look, scores of data indicate that children who are raised by single parents have problems. And I did indicate some of them last week. They are likely to be criminals. They are likely to engage in prostitutions. They are likely to be bullies in school. They are likely to use drugs and all of those. And again, that the safest space to raise a child is raise a child in an environment where the child is with the parents, both father and mother. And we should never attack such a system. That children are better off when they are raised by their fathers and mothers together, because there are specific contributions that fathers make to their children and specific contributions that mothers make to their children, and that the children should not be robbed of this. And yet, the agenda, as an aside to it, is to push for LGBT families to have the right to adopt. So you're going to have two females adopting a son or a child and raising them. Raising them as what? These are females. And then two males adopting and raising as, males. One will play in the role of a mother, the other. It doesn't work like that. It is a mother and a father is of a child, and not a male, female. So the data and research extensively indicate that children are better off in intact homes. So again, it's an attack, on the family. It is also an attack on the sanctity of human sexuality and gender. Look, the agenda and the statement that gender is fluid, that you can choose. Today you are a man, and if you feel that the next couple of months you are not a man, you can switch to become a woman. Where is this coming from? It comes with a lot of sociological challenges and psychological difficulties, and people will have to at the point go for hormone therapy and sex organ reassignment and all kinds of complications. It is an attack on just simply the way God made things. That, and again, that by the time this is coming forward, it is an attack on accepting the biblical position about man and woman. That there are no binaries. Now, let me I was made like that, and nature doesn't make a mistake. That is not true. Now, I explained last week that God, from a biblical perspective, God made man. Genesis 26, 27, 20, 29. And the opportunity for further procreation was passed on to man. But, Eunice, this is clear and we must point it out. The fact that God, through procreation, a man and a woman meeting together, and the gamete, eggs and sperm meeting, and then fertilization start, doesn't mean there cannot be mistakes. And you know why there can be mistakes? I'll tell you why there can be mistakes. Number one, we have extensive literature documenting that during pregnancy, if a woman is drinking, is smoking, is engaged in certain behaviors, it can affect the development of the fetus. So why are we lying? What is this kind of hypocrisy coming from? So a woman who takes alcohol and is even taking certain drugs, are you aware that the current vaccine and corona vaccine, pregnant women, when the initial, I don't know whether now they are allowed, but pregnant women were not supposed to take it. I think it's the same. Why are they not supposed to take it? Because we know that when they take it, it has the potential to compromise their health and they're unborn. That's why they don't have to. And there are scores of other conditions. If somebody is smoking, somebody is taking coffee at a certain stage in life, if somebody is taking certain medications and whatnot, you are not, because it can affect the child. So what is important is that there are so many factors, both interuterine, that is what the mother is, herself engaging in, and then extra, which is the environment, that can affect toxins in the environment, can affect the final outcome of how a child will look like. So that is not just God. We have a role to play. And so if you are pregnant and you start taking medications and start misbehaving, you don't sleep well, you're not drinking, you don't go to antenatal and whatnot, your chances that you are going to have a child with problems will be huge. You see the point? So it is completely untrue that nature doesn't make mistakes. We contribute to those mistakes. And so somebody might have given birth. Some of these intercessions could be as a result of certain mistakes that the mother, when the woman was pregnant, she was taking some medication. It could, and it is possible, and we have evidence that when the woman is pregnant and engages in certain behaviors and drugs, it can affect the fetus. So it is not true when people say nature doesn't make, nature makes mistakes, and we are part of the processes. So if we are part of it, then we have to be careful what we do. And again, to educate mothers. Now, there are corrective surgeries for such babies when they are born. You can go for proper chromosomal analysis, and the doctors will help you to correct this right at birth. If you go to other latitudes now, they say, no. Leave the child. Let the child grow and make a choice when it is about their sexuality. But when there's any other malfunctioning, why don't you intervene? Hypocrisy, that's the point. Scientific hypocrisy, an argument that is not strong at all. And I think that people should know this. So there is a huge agenda against the church, the cradle of human conscious morality, and against the family systems. And I feel sad for the next generation of children, young people. If a child at age 2, 3, you begin to tell the child anything you want to be, your gender can be moving from a male to female. What kind of thinking is that? It's not true. Look, Eunice, we must understand that whether we like it or not, this world cannot be governed by a law of relativity. There are absolutes in life. Human beings, for example, can never and should not become animals. There are absolute. The human being is a human being. Human beings cannot eventually wake up and they say they have become lions. No, there are absolute. Where your eyes are should be where your eyes are. Because there are particular, biological arrangement at where your eyes will be under your foot. There are absolutes in life. And we have to understand that this absolute should not be challenged. And we should defend these absolutes. And one of those absolutes is about human sexuality. When I come and tell you gender is fluid, don't believe it. Gender is never fluid. If it at the chromosomal level, even when the fertilization, never fluid. It's clear. The chromosomes, XX, XY. Right. It's clear, but there can be aberrations. So we should not be deceiving ourselves with this idea that, it can be anything, it can be XXY, XXY, something. It's not true. All of those are aberrations. And clearly, even Christ spoke about it, that there can be people like that at birth. And these are people he was talking about this intersex, those who may be born. In the text, it was more about how do you call them? The eunuchs, right? So people can be born with some kind of difficulty, but not somebody born with clear anatomy, male. Somebody is born with clear anatomical identity, female, and she says that I feel I'm a male, and so she goes for gender reassignment, and then how do you call it, hormonal therapy. And the literature says that between 10 and 15 years, they regret. And yet, when they have the gender reassignment, that is a permanent, it's irreversible. It's irreversible. What are we doing to ourselves in the world? So that is the point.
Wow, be vigilant. Do not let anyone deceive you. What is conversion therapy, and do people need it at all?
Thank you very much. So you see, a little bit of history to this. Those days in the 60s, 40s, thereabout, people who were identified, because the LGBT was criminalized in American history. So people who were identifying with this particular behavior were actually maltreated. In fact, some of them had obnoxious treatment. Some had electricity, I've forgotten the therapy, but using electricity, to release some shocks to their spine, just to, as a way of treatment. Some of them, for example, will have, if you're a male, you can have a female standing before you naked. They just want to, it's a way of treating. And if you look at mental health history, it's been fraught with some of those obnoxious treatments. In fact, part of the treatments given to people who were seen as mentally ill, like lobotomy, for example, a part of the scalp is removed, So these were very invasive thing, and punching something into the scalp. All of this were done as means of, they thought that was how you can treat certain illnesses like schizophrenia and other range of mental illnesses. And so this kind of elements were also there in trying to convert them. To convert means that they want to just change the orientation from their sex attraction and behavior to heterosexual. Now, today, those conversion therapies are known as sexual orientation change effort or gender orientation change effort, gender identity orientation change effort. So because of this, some psychologists and professionals indicated that, look, this is very horrible, it's not the right way to treat and whatnot, and virtually ban SOCs, and the sexual orientation change efforts and gender identity orientation change efforts. But I can tell you that scores of people come forward, and these are people who have, and they have just affirmed that this is helpful. I have scores of literature indicating that this works. So then, one will want to find out, if it works, then why are we beginning to tell people that it doesn't work? And again, I told you that the intellectual community, psychiatrists and psychologists in the past, didn't help matters. What happened was that, there was this agenda indicating that same-sex attraction is inborn, is innate, is genetic. So don't tamper with it. Today we know it's not genetic. It is a choice people make. And in our data, we have a data recently, we can still see the struggle between biology and choice. And with the participant telling us that, oh, well, I don't think I'm born like that. It's a choice I made, and I've decided to just move on. So people make choices, they move in life. Why are you telling me that when they have come to their senses and they realize that, look, I need support to move on, you say no? It is offensive. It is not. Look, sexual orientation change effort is just like any psychotherapeutic instrument, tool that is used. If anybody tells he wants a psychotherapist to work with him, the person has 70% chance, is 70% better off than somebody who is not seeing a psychotherapist. It doesn't mean psychotherapy is 100% efficient. No. And it's the same thing that applies to sexual orientation change efforts. It has its own weaknesses just as any therapy. Therapy, no therapy can give you 100. It's about 70%. That's what the research indicates. Can give you 100% success rate. No. And no therapy cures a challenge.
Okay.
It is to enhance the client's ability to maintain and manage himself or herself. That is what therapy is all about. It doesn't cure anything. So the argument that we say we want to cure, nobody says they want to cure this. But the argument we are making is that the person's sexual same-sex attraction remains a feeling until the person acts on it.
Right.
And as long as the person is acting on it and he says, I want help, the person must be given help. It's as simple as that. And we have indicated that, the hypocritical community says that, no, don't touch it. This is the person, that's how he wants things to be. Blah, blah. That's what we are doing. So that is conversion therapy. It includes and that we will. And again, say that this is dangerous, this is untrue. Look, we have the evidence. We have scores and hundreds and thousands with some studies even indicating as success rate of over 60%, some 68%, which is close to psychotherapy that I spoke to you about. So what is the battle? The battle is that this is a political ploy. And we have to stand up and defend our context. I have repeatedly said, I work as a suicidologist, and I work with people who are in vulnerable conditions. I have worked with people who find themselves in this LGBT community. They are vulnerable. And so it saddens my heart to see young people who are looking for help, and people tell us that is their right, and they keep going through these challenges. They want change. They want somebody to work with. They say, we shouldn't help them. No. And if there are some of them who don't help, and yes, yourself. If they don't need help, they don't need help. So don't bother yourself. They don't need help. But the point is that you do not need to block those who need help from accessing help. That's the point.
Wow. So that brings me to my last question. Why do you think Ghana needs this bill at this very time?
Very important question. And I have been asked this question several times by others. That why do you think we need this bill? Ghana is in the Committee of Nations. Nations are beginning to progress. We are moving forward. And it's very funny to be listening to that argument that nations are moving forward. Moving forward with this kind of behavior. Look, if you know the sociological crisis presently in the West, on the attack on the family and the challenges that they are faced with, look, the systematic withdrawal of religious education from the American public space and American educational system, what do we see these days? We see children moving to school with guns. If I am mistaken, tell me. And they begin to shoot others in the class. There is something religion does to malleable minds like children. Religion is a robust processor of good morals, of compassion, of good conscience. If a child has a good conscience, and when you go to school and religion keeps telling you that love your neighbor as yourself, your fellow student, mate is a human being as you are. You have no idea what this has done to our conscience when we're growing up. We have systematically in the US been taking this out of the American educational system. And now look at the gun control problems America has now that they are dealing with. Ghana needs this bill now for 2 or 3 reasons. Number one, in fact, last week I showed you that the CDC in 2018 reported 86% of incidents of HIV is from men who have sex with men. I think 18% in Ghana, the AIDS Commission indicated, is attributed to this behavior. Look, this is a young population. Over 70% of the Ghanaians are under age 40. It's a young population. And we need to protect our young people. We know by data that a lot of young people who are engaged in these behaviors are doing so because, Eunice, they simply are getting money from this community. Some are paying their fees. We have a problem with unemployment in this country. Young people are just completing school. Some data indicates that it will take about a handful of them 5 to 10 years to get a job. The 90%, it may take them up to 10 years. A few will get a job within the first year, and the others may not. It will take, scores of them may not get a job. And so many of them are currently unemployed. And so it's very easy for them to be influenced. And we work on mental health in this country. I have scores of data on suicide. I see how people get distressed because they don't have jobs and they want to be suicidal, or they feel suicidal. All of this come into this. What we need to do is that we need to protect our young people. That economic factors are driving them into these behaviors. And we need to argue clearly and let them understand that this is not a behavior they should find themselves in. That's the first point. The second point is that even in the schools, we have an advocacy for this behavior. Why? As I said earlier on, why would you advocate for heterosexual behavior in schools? Will you do that? You don't do that. We're getting them going to schools, engaging in these behaviors. Look, in one of our data which is published, 2 out of 5 young people who identify with this LGBT community are already suicidal. Even if we go by the minority stress, that they get stressed because of the way people treat them, do we want to add on to that? You have no idea the pressures I go through as a suicidologist on young people who are going through these experiences. I don't want this for young people again. And especially when some of them, majority of them, are going into this behavior. In Ghana, it's only about 28%, 28 births for 100,000 who may have intersex. They're a minority. So why do we want to say, oh, young people, look, this is something you have to go into this? No, it is not. We don't have to support this. We have to protect our young people. I don't want our young people to become suicidal. And very soon, look, you have no idea the deluge, the number of young people who are calling for support since this thing started. They need help. So because of that, we have to, because we already have a problem with our mental health landscape. Right. Government doesn't commit money into mental health. Mental health, in fact, we have manpower crisis in mental health now. And I can tell you that when challenges, this community, when they have challenges, even keeping with this behavior, they need therapists. They need therapists. We don't have the numbers to be adding that to that. We have to stop this thing at where it matters most. The third reason why Ghana needs this now, and I think that the churches as well need this now, is that, look, if you look at the number of, the HIV scourge that Ghana AIDS Commission has to fight and battle with. Some time ago, I used to work in this particular area. And there are so many factors that actually lead into this. One of them is what he identified as men who have sex with men. You see, the LGBT behavior leads a number of them into actually prostitution. The data indicates that they can have multiple partners, as many as 20. And if you read materials from those who have actually been part of them and they have changed, they tell you that they became prostitutes. I have scores of people who have changed, and their books I've read. They were prostituting themselves and their in-laws every month, every night, for money. Why do we need this at this time? Africa has so many issues to grapple with. We have challenges getting jobs for our young people. We still are working, trying to get our education system right. Young people finish school here, they can't get jobs. We have problems with domestic abuse. We have so many issues. And I think that we should spend time and our money and resources on important things, and not to be saying that these people need right and black. By the way, this particular thing has been solved. It's not a human rights issue at all. That is sorted. So that one, we don't have to go there at all. The issue is this nation ready for this? The kind of carnage, moral carnage that will be unleashed on the family, on sexuality, and the number of young people that I've seen who are engaged in this, you have no idea. 14 years, 13 years. And most of the time, it is a union between a sexual pervert and a victim. And our young people, 14 years, 16 years, are getting annulled by adults. And people think that we should support this. It is actually rape that is ongoing now in this community. It's rape. And the young people will tell you, he said that he will help me, and then he told me I'll become his wife, and he forced me. It's rape. But they will give them money to be quiet, and they will push money into you, and you are quiet. Ghana needs to stop this now. And Eunice, guess what? We are not the only nation. In fact, like I said, in America, some states don't accept it. So nobody can come and push this down. If they should accept, they should force those states to accept it. If they have the courage to say, we will not accept this here as a sovereign nation, we need to tell them that we have the right to protect the sanctity of sexuality, to protect the sanctity of marriage, to protect the lives of our children, and to protect the dignity of human beings. Human beings are not animals. They can be absolutes in life.
Wow. We do not have much time left. We will continue this conversation. There's so much more to cover. So please join us next week. Professor, your last words, and please say a prayer for people who might be struggling with this.
Ladies and gentlemen, and our cherished viewers, thanks for joining us all the time, using your data to listen to nuggets of wisdom and what we've been doing. I want to categorically indicate that supporting the agenda to pass out the bill in Parliament that will criminalize all activities of advocacy and, getting young people into this behavior and sexual pervert, taking advantage of our children and compromising the family system is an important agenda. The bill, as is in front of Parliament, is not a bill that propagates hate. There's no hate aspect in the bill. In fact, intersex are not criminalized in the bill. Those who are doing this are just pushing, it's a propaganda. It's not true. I'd like you to support this bill. Pray. Talk to people you know. If anybody approaches you and says he needs help, please be compassionate. We are a redemptive society, and we have 2,000 years of evidence that people were engaged in this behavior, and yet they were washed, cleansed, and they became born again. If you are watching us and you need help, I'd like you to just look at our social media handles. Contact us. We will help you. But I want to pray with you as we end, so that if you have any challenge, just get in touch. We believe that there is nothing that God cannot do. And we have scores of evidence of how people have had their lives turn around by turning to Christ. Dear Father, thank you for our listeners. For the past couple of weeks, we have been doing these discussions. I pray in the name of Jesus for anybody who is going through this distress of wanting to break free from same-sex attraction. I decree in the name of Jesus that you will help the person, that you will heal the person, that the person will know what to do, that the person will come across with people who can help and let the person receive help. I thank you for this prayer in Jesus' name. Now, if you're not born again, I'd like you to say these words after me. And after you have said these words, you look at our social media handles and get back to us. We will help you. Dear Father, thank you that Jesus was given for my sins. As a sinner, I decree and declare that I accept him as my Lord and personal Savior. Help me, Lord Jesus, and let me save you. Amen. If you pray this prayer, you are born again. So as I said, look at our social media handles and follow through and come over. We will help you grow your faith in Christ. If you are far away from us, look for any Bible-believing church and go there and they will help you. Next week, same time, 12 o'clock to 1, we'll bring unto you Anchor Hour. Stay with us. The Lord is with you. Until we come your way, it's shalom, peace, and life to you. Bye-bye.